Hi, I'm Sean Manaher. Welcome to the Author Hangout. The Author Hangout is brought to you by bookmarketingtools.com, which aims to equip authors with the right tools, education, and community to help authors market their books better. As I said, Sean Manaher with the Author Hangout. Today we're greeted by a very special guest, CJ Lyons, and she has a lot to say, and we're going to get right into it. CJ, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Awesome. And as you know, audience, we take questions, we take comments. We've had some interesting comments already in our feed on Google+. And if you want to get noticed on Twitter, use the hashtag the Author Hangout, hashtag the Author Hangout, and we'll be able to monitor those, and they'll come over onto our stream. If we have a question that you want to ask CJ about marketing, anything marketing. She's been doing this longer than most of us have been writing or marketing ourselves, and so she's going to really be able to provide a lot of details. There's a couple call to actions that we'll have. The one that we do want to make sure that you know about is NoRulesJustWrite.com. CJ, that's your website. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I began that website several years ago as a way to give something back to all the people that have helped me, because I realized that so many writers, and I'm like this myself, we just want to write. We don't want to learn the business, and that's a whole new field for us. So when I forced myself to learn the business and started following places like Seth Godin and Copy Blogger, and reading books like Simon Sinek's wonderful The Power of Why, I started that blog so that people could get access to those resources, and it would all be contained in one place. So it's kind of grown from there. I have a lot of fun with it, but I've kind of backed off a bit because so many other people are saying the same things that I've been saying for years, and so I almost feel like I should put a banner up that says "Mission Accomplished."
Yeah, and I almost, as I was going through page after page after page after page, I thought, well, I don't have to say anything more because CJ said it. But the cool thing is that we have the opportunity to meet with you face to face, and this is really an exciting opportunity for us and those that are on. Now, I will say that we have three types of audience members. We have published, self-published, and unself-published authors. I think that's a new word that we're going to use. So this question is for the latter group. What were and are the challenges that you face in trying to write your books?
Well, the biggest thing for me right now is finding time. Actually, my time is more valuable than anything, and I always try to set the bar higher with each book, and so that takes more time to write a book. I can't guarantee that I can write 3 or 4 books a year if I'm trying to give my audience the quality that they deserve. Unfortunately, they're very voracious. That's why writers aren't in competition with each other, because readers, there's no way we can keep up with their appetite. So a lot of times I'll direct my readers to other thriller writers to give myself a break. I'm kind of like, hey, go read his book or her book. Give me time to write this for you. But I'm very lucky that my fans, they are so adamant. I'm always getting hounded, basically, by emails asking for more Lucy, which is my FBI thriller series, my Lucy Gardino series, or when are you going to come out with something new, Hart and Drake, or whatever they want. So that's a lot of fun. But I think it's really important for people to learn how to say no and to protect their time, because without the time, everything else, if you don't get the next book written, it doesn't matter how well you market. And in fact, I would suggest that our best marketing tool is sitting down and writing the next book.
That's a good quote. We'll be pulling that out for sure. And with that, CJ, you've started this a while ago, and when you were first starting out, I imagine that there were challenges that you faced then. What were some of those challenges, and how did you overcome them?
Well, you have to remember that I was traditionally published. I had 1 book out and 1 book that was soon to be out, and my traditional publisher was publishing my series 1 book a year. And my readers, despite the fact that they had only had one of my books out, they were like, wait, we can't wait that long. We need more books. We need more books. And I had what at the time seemed like bad luck, but it turned very fortuitous. Had several manuscripts that had been through copy editors with New York City publishers but had never actually made it to the bookstore. The books had been canceled, or the editor left me orphaned, or a variety of things that can go wrong with traditional publishing. So I had these manuscripts that had been vetted, copy edited, approved by New York City. So I thought, why not self-publish them when the Kindle KDP platform became possible? Not thinking I was going to make any money, because remember, at the time, it was 35% royalties across the board. But I thought, this will keep my fans happy. It will keep my name in their mind so that when the next book comes out, they'll be anticipating it and will be excited by it. Well, within a year, that was, I started really January 2010, and by January 2011, I was pretty much paying the bills with the self-publishing. And that's when I realized that, you know what, I need to learn more about the business side. And that was a huge challenge for me, because I'm not a disciplined writer. I'm a medical doctor. I'm a pediatric ER doctor is my background, so you can imagine there's definitely a touch of ADD here. So sitting down and actually trying to figure out marketing and publicity and promotion and website design and, you know, what kind of book covers should I be asking my artists for, it was overwhelming because it was just so much. So I think that's a huge challenge, and I think that the problem a lot of people have is they try to do it all alone. And that's one of the reasons why I started my blog, so that they could see that there's resources. There's easy ways to learn a lot of this, and when you know the right questions to ask, it's easier to find the right people to partner with. And I think it's so important that people, even before they're published, start thinking themselves, if they truly want to make a career out of this, as CEOs of their very own global media empire. And when I say global, I truly mean around the world, and by media, I truly mean multimedia, not just print, not just ebooks, but audiobooks, translation rights, perhaps film and TV, graphic novels. But you also have to be thinking about every contract you sign, whether it's a New York City publisher or just accepting the terms of service with a distributor like Amazon or Nook. It's a contract that you're partnering with someone with, and you need to treat it like that. So, you know, you need to learn how to work with people, how to build a team, and how to decide who's going to give your readers the best experience and what they deserve.
You said a lot there. One of the things you talked about were questions that writers should ask. And so what are some of those questions writers should be asking if they're looking to get into this as a career?
Well, first of all, you have to ask yourself why you're doing this. A lot of writers, especially unpublished ones, you know, they really just have that one book that they've been focusing on or thinking of or redrafting and redrafting and redrafting for, you know, the last 10 years. Or perhaps they just have one area of nonfiction that they're passionate about, and they're really not looking to make a career out of this. And if that's the case, then quite honestly, you can probably relax because it's so easy to publish, and you're not really worried about building an audience. You can let your work speak for itself, and the audience come to you. So for all those guys, I say, hey, have fun writing your book and, you know, relax. But you have to understand, you know, why you're doing this, what you're doing this for, and what you want to get out of it. I think it's also very, very important to understand objectively, and this is so hard for authors because we pour our heart and soul into every book that we write. But what kind of book are you writing? I see so many people that classify their books just because they know that this genre is a hot trend, even though the book technically doesn't fit that and is not going to keep those readers happy. So I think it's really important to understand your comparisons, understand the genre trends, understand, you know, really, you know, what kind of story are you writing, and truly, you know, be objective. You know, if you're writing an Amish erotic vampire story, then your audience segment's probably pretty small, and you really can't expect to hit #1 in the New York Times list with that. You know, but people often don't look at the overall marketplace. They just look at that one book that they're focused on. And the third question that's so important to ask yourself is, who am I writing this for? Who are my readers? What is going to make them just jump for joy and delight and excitement when they read this book? What's going to make them feel so strongly about these characters or this story that they want to tell all their friends? And so if you're coming at this from a career point of view, you really need to understand why you're doing it, what you're doing, and who you're doing it for.
So we hear this from authors almost every week. I can't find readers, or some variation of that. So let's dive into this. What's some practical advice you would give writers who are struggling with this?
Okay. Well, I'm going to start by giving you guys the secret formula, okay? So,
I'm writing this down. I
yeah,
really am.
Step one, write a great book. That's the easy part for most of us. Step two, give your readers time to find the book and get so excited that they tell their friends. That's the hard part. We're impatient. We think, I published a book 2 weeks ago. Why don't I have 20 million reviews and I'm a millionaire? You have to give it time. And this is for both traditional and self-published authors. You really have to give your readers time and a good reason for them to want to share it with their friends. And then the thing that I also see people fail on over and over again is number 3, and that is repeat. You have to go back and start from scratch and write another great book. And when I say writing a great book, I don't mean that you have to do it all yourself. I'm totally anticipating that you're going to have a professional editor, maybe more than one. I actually work with the same editors I used to work with in New York City because unfortunately several of them have been laid off. So I use them for my developmental editors. I have 2 copy editors for each book, and I usually have 2 to 3 proofreaders. So you really do have to think about developing a team approach, just like a New York City publisher would. I want any one of my books that has my name on it, I want my readers not to be able to tell the difference between a New York City book or a self-published book that has my name on it. And so far I've been fairly successful in that. But, you know, that's not how most people start out. They start out thinking more of a scarcity approach, as in, I don't have time, I don't have money, I don't have readers, I don't have a cover artist, I don't have a website. They start thinking of everything they don't have instead of looking at the bigger picture of what is out there for them to just reach out. You don't have to pay for an editor. You can trade services or barter services. Or, you know, save up your money to pay for an editor and, you know, hold off on something else that costs a lot of money. You know, there's just so many ways to get the job done that I think a lot of people get scared and they get overwhelmed, and they need to take a step back and just focus on, have I written the best book possible? Have I given my readers time to find it? And if you have and you still haven't found readers, then look back at step number 1, because it could be that you wrote the best book possible, but you didn't give it the right cover art for your audience. You didn't write the right blurb, the product description that is going to entice your readers. And this goes back to those original 3 questions. Know why you write, know what you wrote, know who you're writing it for. Maybe you have it priced so it's not competitive in the marketplace. You know, there's a lot of reasons why readers choose books, and you have to understand why they would choose your book. That's something in the marketing parlance they call, what do they call it, unique selling proposition.
Yep.
So why this book? Why would they spend their time and energy investing in you? Because that's what you're asking a reader to do, to basically invest in you. So are you someone that's worthy of that?
Yeah, and you talked about a few things there. I want to hone in on three things: covers, titles, and blurbs. Can you talk to us a little bit about why each of those are important in the marketing process, not just the writing process?
Those, other than writing the best book possible, those are the 3 most important things in your marketing. So many people get fixated on how many Facebook likes they have or Twitter followers, and that's all for nothing if once they click through to the book, they see a cover that is confusing or doesn't immediately tell them what kind of book this is, or they see a title that sounds like a different genre than what they were expecting. I mean, if you have a cutting-edge techno thriller and your title is Bed of Roses, there's a disconnect there, you know? And again, with your product description, if you have a product description that's, you know, telling the plot instead of telling the reader why they would be excited by this book, I tell people when you're writing your product descriptions, think of it as a story. Think of it as a tiny, tiny window into the world of the book. You don't want to give away the plot so much as the, you know, connect the reader on an emotional level so they care about these characters. if you're writing fiction, or if you're writing nonfiction. So they're just as passionate and intrigued by the questions you're answering in your nonfiction book. So, again, it's understanding your readers and how they think, because it's often very different than the way us authors approach our stories.
And when you're looking at, so our writers, so not every writer gets this, but the audience that we have does get this. They know that they can't just write the book, they need to market it. So let's talk about what's working for you today. When you're marketing, what's working for you?
Yeah, I have to tell you guys, this is a really tough time. I just came back from BEA, where I was in the Author Hub with, most of us there had sold over 1 million books. I'm between 2 and 3 million now. It depends if you count my New York City books or just my self-published. I was sitting beside like Barbara Freely, who's Amazon KDP's #1 best-selling author in history, in the universe. Hugh Howey, Bella Andre, all these wonderful people that have sold millions of books. And we're all looking at each other saying, we're not quite sure what we need to be doing next because it's a really tough time because the market is very saturated. I think #1, if you know and understand your readers, if you can trust them and engage with them and connect with them so that they'll come back, that's very important. I do that through my newsletter list, which is still my #1 marketing tool, other than writing the best book I can. The other thing that I have started to do is BookBub ads are still very powerful, not quite as strong as they were when they first came out. But I can usually get a book on the USA Today list if I do a BookBub ad and if I do it right and timing it and things. Now that's something really artificial, though. It has nothing to do with the book, and it's really about finding new readers rather than keeping your current readers happy. So I think you have to juggle both of those as you're working to market and to build things. I think the toughest thing right now is for people that have their first book out there, because they're struggling to find their readership, and it's hard because it will take time. It's not going to happen overnight. Readers are just so much more savvy than they were, and they hesitate before clicking the buy button. So, you need to make certain you decrease that friction as much as possible. But if you've done all that, I would suggest your best marketing thing right now for a newcomer is not to worry about things like special sales or promotions. In fact, I wouldn't even market that book really, other than sitting down and writing the next book. And here's the reason why. You want the people that do fall in love with that first book, you want them to get to the end and say, hey, what else does this guy have? I want to read more of him or her. And you want them to be able to click on something immediately. So I actually wouldn't focus too much on spending money on marketing or spending extra time on it, especially if it's taking it away from your writing time, until you have 2 to 3 books out there. On average, I have found that most people, quote-unquote, break out about after 4 to 6 books, all aimed at the same audience. So if you're writing erotic vampires plus Amish-inspired, Christian stories, that's not the same audience. So 4 to 6 books aimed at the same audience, and it's usually about 4 to 6 months after the last book comes out before they really can start to see a lot of impact by using some of the marketing tools out there.
And this might, I don't think it'll detract too much, but fusion fiction, is that a possibility for people? Is that that's what I hear a lot. Well, I have this piece over here that's this genre, and then this piece over. Does fusion fiction work in creating almost a new audience?
Okay, now what are you saying when you mean fusion fiction?
So fusion fiction, probably a word that I just created, but basically we're using Western vampire genres. So it's a Western, but it has a vampire. We get a lot of questions from authors that say, well, my book falls in this line, but also this, and it's like that category doesn't exist. So.
Oh, that's my entire career. I created my own genre because of that, thrillers with heart, because my books pretty much feature relationships at the heart of it. They're very character-driven. There's always a very honest emotional journey, so it's not the kind of fit into a cookie-cutter type of emotional journey. And they're much more about the gray areas between good and evil than most thrillers, instead of the action-adventure part, although they still have that adrenaline rush that thrillers have. So whether I have my Angels of Mercy, which is my first published series, which was medical suspense with strong romantic elements, or, you know, I have my Lucy Gardino FBI thrillers. It's about a Pittsburgh soccer mom who happens to be a kick-ass FBI agent. They all have something to satisfy my target audience because I keep that emotional promise. And that's really what branding is. And I think that's what you're talking about. Instead of talking about the genres, I would talk about how you as an author, what promise are you making your readers on an emotional level? You know, every book is going to provide a reader with such and such. And you can, if you keep that promise every time, you can actually cross and blur the genre lines all you want, because your readers are still going to be satisfied and happy, and they'll leave reviews. You know, it's a question, again, though, of knowing your audience and understanding what you wrote and what the promise of that is. And that's really hard. A lot of people don't ever get that, and it's really hard to come up with that theme that kind of goes through all of your books.
And a question that, thank you for that, and a question that came up for Chrissy, I thought it was just a sidebar in some ways. Did you have an opinion about ebooks as opposed to paperbacks?
Okay, it depends on what your goal is. If you want to get your book into bookstores, you're going to need some kind of physical print copy of it. So a lot of my readers, they actually, after I did the ebooks, I really hadn't dreamed of doing print books until I started to get so many emails from readers saying, hey, I want a copy of your book to put on my bookcase. So that is something that I'm very honored by, because basically my readers are saying I'm an important part of their life or personality, and they want to bring me into their home. I also, that's one of the reasons why I still work with New York City Publishing, is because they can do that print distribution much better than I can, although I have to tell you that gap is narrowing. The last book I just did, Farewell to Dreams, which is a medical thriller about fatal insomnia, which is, by the way, a real disease. I actually released it first in hardcover from Ingram's using their distribution system, and at the same time I released it in trade paperback from CreateSpace, and then about a month later I released it as an ebook and audiobook. So that really helped me kind of build up things. Plus I got reviews on the print books in place, so when I had the ebook ready to go, it was very easy to propagate all those reviews over to the ebook, and that really helped me with the launch. Now, it took a lot of coordination, but I think it was worthwhile, and I think I will continue. Every book in that series is going to come out in hardcover and all the other print options. Do I make a lot of money on my print books when I do them myself? It's really tough because they are print on demand, and that means a much, much tighter margin as far as profit. But that's okay, because I'm really doing them as a service for my readers. And right now, the main markets I'm focused on for my print books are libraries and independent booksellers, because I want to make it as frictionless as possible for them to look at Ingram's catalog and say, hey, we've heard her name. She's hit the New York Times list. She's been published with, 5 major New York City publishers. Yeah, let's go ahead and order in her next book. I want to make it easy for them. I don't want them to have to think twice about it.
And fatal insomnia is a real thing. That's interesting.
It is. It's a
the other interesting thing that I read on your site, you've met a serial killer? Are you serious?
Yeah. When I was a pediatric ER doctor, we had, now I should say suspected serial killer, because she killed herself before we could take her to trial. But the evidence was overwhelming. And unfortunately, 3 out of the 5 children in her family had died. So it was a very, very distressful case. It polarized the community because she was a pillar of the community and the perfect mother in everyone's eyes, except for those of us who encountered her behind the scenes on the medical side of things. So it was really a polarizing case in so many ways. But it was to meet her and to see how she she was, basically, I mean, I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, but I'm sure she had a narcissistic personality disorder. I mean, the way she presented herself and, the way you would see her when she didn't know that you were watching her, it was quite illuminating.
Wow. And I'm going to switch it right back to book marketing. So you said you have a team. Most of the authors here are starting on a budget. Somebody here, Latasha, had said, as a self-published writer, what happens when you don't have a lot of money to work with? How do you work on a budget and still get the quality you're looking for, and tie that into teams? How does that work for somebody just starting?
First of all, you don't want to settle. I did that early on with some of my cover art where I settled for cover art that I knew wasn't the best, but you have to remember this was the early ages. I mean, we were lucky we were able to put color in our covers, and I knew they weren't quite the best, but I just didn't even know how to go out and talk to a cover artist. Now what I do, and what I'd recommend for people to do, is look around on the website. Look at places like DeviantArt. Don't just look at people that are billing themselves as services as cover artists, although definitely you want to look at their cover art to get ideas. Look at, if you don't have a lot of money and you have a college or a technical school in your neighborhood, go to them and say, hey, do you have any graphic design students that would like to do a project for credit? And then you would do it and do a work-for-hire contract where you would keep all the copyright, but they would be able to get the grade. And so, you can do things like that. Barter, if you find there's a lot of authors that are also photographers or artists and are doing really nice cover art for their own work, if you see someone like that, approach them, say, hey, can I do some developmental editing for you, if that's your strength, in exchange for cover art? So there's a lot of different ways to do it. But I think the important thing is whenever you don't have money, it means it's going to take more time and energy because you're going to have to think out of the box. But it is definitely doable. There's even these smaller sites like, 99
Designs?
Yes, 99 Designs. There's places like that where you can put it out for bidding and select the cover. So there's a lot of different pathways you can take. And the same with editorial services. Now, the one thing with editorial services that I would recommend is before you let anyone and you pay them money to be a copy editor, make certain that they truly are qualified, that they're not just someone that did really good in school or knows a little bit about grammar. I've had a couple copy editors that, quite frankly, have done a pretty poor job. But there's also brilliant ones out there. So check out their website, see about their testimonials. Most of them will give you their previous clients or their current clients' contact information so that you can talk to them, or they'll even do a couple sample chapters for free so you can make certain that you work well together, because that's a relationship that is just so important, and you really can't skimp on quality when it comes to editing.
There are a lot of questions that have come through. I know that we can't get to them all right now in the half-an-hour session that we have, so we'll try to answer those along the way. But as we're wrapping up very soon here, but CJ, what's next? You sold 2 to 3 million books. What's next for you?
Well, I just released Farewell to Dreams 2 weeks ago. And by the way, do check out the cover art on that because that's done by a very talented author/photographer, Tony McGee-Kazi. My next book is the 5th in the Lucy Gardino FBI thriller series, and it's called Hardball, and it's one that her fans have been really, really waiting for several, actually for about a year now. So that's going to be coming out in September. And then I'm doing, this is a busy year, then I'm doing a spin-off series from the Lucy series, and the first book of that in the Renegade Justice series comes out from Amazon in October, followed in November by my second young adult thriller called Watch. That was actually a BEA select book, and it's coming out from Source Books in November. So this is like a really, really busy year for me.
Well, I want to say thank you for making time. I know that being as busy as you are, for making the time to be on here, I so appreciate it. I know the audience appreciates it as well. As we kind of wrap this up, where do you want people to go?
Oh, if you guys want to head over to NoRulesJustWrite, that's WRITE.com, I really, honestly, I share everything I know there. If you're looking for things that are more in depth, there's a couple free online courses, and also we have a few where Joanna Penn of thecreativepenn.com, which is a wonderful blog. You all should be following her. She's brilliant. We teamed up together to do some team teaching on 4 very intensive modules on the publishing. So there's pretty much something for everyone there, no matter what stage you're in.
Great. And thank you again, CJ. As we wrap things up, guys, I know that CJ has all the free resources there. If you've gone to bookmarketingtools.com/free guide, on the right-hand side, you'll be able to fill out a form where over 1,000 authors have filled out a book marketing tool checklist to help you with your marketing. And so if you want to do that, go right ahead. In addition, next week, or in 2 weeks, we have the season finale for the Author Hangout. This is going to be a 1-hour special where some of the guests that we had on previously are going to be on a panel discussion. We'll be talking all about book marketing. And again, this has been a treat, CJ. Thank you, and we'll talk to you all later, bro.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye-bye.